Good evening, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Star of Zion. We are committed to fulfilling our mission to provide you with news that is current, relevant, and dependable. Under the leadership of our dynamic 18th editor-in-chief, Mr. Darren Kent, we are guided by our core values of faith, truth, and love. Tonight, we have a special treat for you on our regularly scheduled program of When Freedom Speaks, a deep dive into our quadrennial theme, the Freedom Church, a movement inspired by the Holy Spirit. To lead this conversation tonight, we have one of Zion's own, a scholar and leader in her own right. I speak of none other than the Reverend Ariane Williams, traveling minister in the Missouri Annual Conference from the Kansas City District, an undergraduate of Howard University, earning her Master's of Divinity from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary. She is the author of 2 books, Love Like I've Never Been Hurt, How to Heal After Heartbreak, and The Women of the Bible and You, a weekly devotional. She currently serves as the Minister of Youth at Liberation AME Zion Church, and she's a former connectional officer in our Christian Education Department for the Varick International Christian Youth Council. I present to you Reverend Ariane Williams.
Thank you so much, Reverend Brown, for that gracious introduction. I am super excited to be joining the Star of Zion tonight to have this wonderful conversation about our quadrennial theme with none other than the senior bishop of the AME Zion Church and one of my most favorite people in the world, who happens to also be my godfather, the Right Reverend Kenneth Monroe. Many of you know him to be the presiding prelate of the Eastern North Carolina Episcopal District. He has pastored churches throughout our Zion. He has served also as a presiding elder for a while. He is married to Mrs. Sheila Monroe, the father of 3 children and grandfather of 7 and great-grandfather of 1. And so I'm so excited to have him join us tonight and to have a great conversation. He, of course, developed our quadrennial theme. And so we're excited to talk to him a little bit more tonight about the theme itself, what it means, how we can use it, how we can engage it in our churches. And let's just hear a little bit more from Bishop Monroe.
Good evening to all who are assembled here, to Reverend Ariane Williams, and to Reverend Sam Brown and all the people that comprise the Star of Zion staff. I'm very grateful to be here to really talk about this quadrennial theme. You know, we've had themes before, but this time it is so important that we embrace this theme as we are experiencing some unusual concerns in our community and in our church, particularly with the pandemic. It has placed us in a very strange place. But it's important that we embrace this theme because we need to bring new life and new understanding about what we are doing as a people of God, particularly as the church. And so I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to be engaged. This is a theme that was created by the Board of Bishops. You know, we have a very talented Board of Bishops. And from time to time, each one of us have the responsibility of introducing the theme and other concerns to the board. We usually try to do that during our retreat. And when we do that, we dissect whatever it comes before us so that we can have something that's going to be meaningful for our people as we move forward. So we embrace this theme, the Freedom Church, empowered by the Holy Spirit, strengthening our fellowship, serving our flock, sharing our faith, and securing our future. So we are very grateful and hopeful that you'll get a better understanding of where we're going to go with this thing. Of course, we've been a little late in getting it out. Some people have embraced it, others have not had an opportunity to. But we're hopeful that this time that we are sharing tonight will be able to help many others understand how important it is to strengthen your fellowship, to serve the flock, to share the faith, and to be secure for the future, not only for Zion, but for the Christian church.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Bishop. We do want to say thank you again to the Star of Zion for sponsoring tonight. We're grateful for the opportunity to talk. And let me just say hello. We see you popping in online. We're excited. Y'all are saying good evening. Hello, hello. We say hello to you. Please feel free to comment, to ask questions throughout our conversation tonight. If you raise a question, we'd love to be able to ask and answer that live as well. So please be interactive with us tonight. Thank you for being with us. And Bishop, you were talking about some have had a chance to access the curriculum, some have not. But listen, we know we're about a little ways into the quadrennium, but if you haven't had a chance to tap in yet, it's okay. We're going to get you totally caught up. I mean, not all tonight, right? But you're going to have an opportunity to get caught up. Uh, at the end of the broadcast, we will talk about there's some be some information shared as to how you can get caught up, and how you can find lessons from the past few months or whatever. So don't worry if you haven't seen it yet or you haven't tapped in yet. You are doing just fine. There's going to be an opportunity for you to connect. And the Star of Zion is going to make sure you get all the information that you need to be able to do that. Okay, so Bishop, I want to jump right in. Just a few seconds ago, you were talking about those sort of smaller components of the theme, right? That kind of make up. You talked about strengthening our fellowship, serving our flock, sharing our faith, and securing our future. And when I hear that, I hear concern about, the body itself, right? And our relationship with one another, as well as what does it mean to really be of service to the church. I also hear notes about evangelism when we talk about sharing our faith and securing our future, which of course is concerned about our posterity. And so I would just love to hear if you could just talk a little bit about why those four components. Why is that important, and why is that sort of tied to this idea of being the Freedom Church, as empowered by the Holy Spirit?
Well, first of all, it's important for us to really understand what's really happening to our church in the last 50 years. Our church is in a mode of decline and in membership as well as in attendance. And if the church is going to be what it should be, it should start at the local level. And that's why we're talking about strengthening the fellowship. We can't really, and I think in some way in the past few years, the fellowship, koinonia, that's what God, you see, you can't have good fellowship without having God in the midst of that. Some of our churches, and I'll say fellowships, I like to say congregations, church, we only have one church, and that's the Zion Church, and the rest of our societies that's connected to it. So I refer to it as congregation. Many of our congregations, for some reason, need to get back to having strong fellowship. Bishop Carr used to say all the time, working together works. And because we need to understand each other and be able to deal with each other. We're all different, but we can all come together and do great things. I believe in my spirit that God has called all the church and all who shall be his disciples to be people who do miraculous things. And we need to be able to understand each other, understand the talents and the gifts that we all have, and be able to know when and how we should be able to disperse that and become a great fellowship, a great body of Christ. So we start with that, and then it's about service. Service. It's about serving those who are part of the fellowship first. It's about edifying and teaching and training, making disciples. Of course, you can't make a disciple without doing some training and teaching, because a disciple is a student. So it's important for us to do that, serve people, so that we learn how to serve beyond the walls of that building. And then we look at sharing the faith. That's so important. So I think in the midst of this time that we've had to view our recent history and see how we are declining in some degree, we have to do some intentional things to bring back the church and where it was. So I think strengthening the fellowship, serving the flock, the body, and sharing the faith is so much important, and among ourselves as well as the others. So I think those components are very, very necessary to bring back and restore the church to where God would have it to be.
Okay. So I guess my next question then would be, well, let me back up and ask this, because of course we always have quadrennial themes, right? And so this time there's so much more here, right? There's this full curriculum. There are going to be videos and resources to help people. So why? What was the thought behind doing it this way? And even this, right? This conversation tonight, that's a part of that. So what made you decide we want to do it this way, or the board decide we want to do it this way?
Yeah, in the past, we've had quadrennial things, and people have took note of it in the beginning, and we may not hear anything else about it for the rest of the quadrennial. And that has happened, and that's not what the theme is about. The theme is, when it's a vision that comes to us where we should take a people in a quadrennial. And so we need to use every resource we possibly can to get this thing out, so it will become a part of the people rather than something that the general body has approved or has been given, and we just refer to it from time to time. It should be entered into the hearts and minds of the local society. And so we take all of these avenues and resources, it's like we're doing tonight, that we prepared a curriculum, a study guide, so that we can really delve into what it really takes to really build this church and strengthen this church. We have to do something intentional. We have to do something that's strategic, methodical, so that we can really feel the vision becoming alive in our church. So, we can't do this, say a nice little speech or a nice little theme and say, oh, that's nice, and that's all it is. It's got to be more than that. And so we're looking at every resource we possibly can. I want to thank the Star of Zion and the communication team for just embracing this, and we're going to be seeing all kind of information about the thing. I remember some years ago, one church had a theme, catch the vision, and it went all over I caught it. I wouldn't even remember that church. and so we got to use all those kind of things to really help our people understand where we want to take them, and move from this mundane way of doing things. And I'm very proud and excited about what the Star of Zion and the communication department is trying to do to advance that. You have been one of our authors to put together the first component, and it was very well done. And we're gonna have 2-3 more, and I think we need to just concentrate on that so that we can make a difference and really understand where we go. And we need to do it together. Every part of the church, the lay people, the preachers, the general officers, the bishops, all of us, we need to embrace this thing so that it will become alive in our church. You know, somebody will ask you, what is the thing of the Zion Church? Everybody in the denomination should be able to tell us and be able to expound on it and receive some inspiration and motivation from it. So that's one of the reasons we're doing that.
And I guess I want to just comment slightly, and I guess maybe there's a question here. As I listen to you talk about the theme, it really kind of reminds me of so many conversations that you and I have had over the years when you are talking about anything you're doing in ministry. Like this might have been when you were pastoring. I think it's been more since you've been a bishop, right? When you're telling me about something you're working on with your preachers or your annual conferences, the thing that jumps out at me, and I think as people are listening tonight, they will also hear this passion, right? And I think what's underneath it is this absolute hope, right? And faith and belief in who we can be, right? You talked a little bit about, we get kind of stagnant or we get like used to things being like they are, but what I'm hearing, and I think it's so important as we listen to you being our senior bishop, is this belief that there is more for us. And I guess I want to ask, it might seem obvious, we're all Christians, we're supposed to be people of faith, but how do you keep that sort of passion and belief sort of inspired and going and sort of burning in you, especially in leadership, right? Because, we all kind of looking at you, we all kind of looking at the board or whoever's in leadership. How do you keep that going within yourself as you're providing leadership? Because I've heard it for years, and I heard it just now as you were talking. So I'd love to hear you talk about where does this come from for you, your inspiration, your passion behind this project? I can hear you now.
Okay. Somebody thought I'd talked enough, so they cut me off for a while. But anyway, you asked me how do I. First of all, I believe, and it's been with me for several years, that God has called all Christians to do the miraculous, to do the impossible. We get caught up in doing the same thing all the time, and it does not take us anywhere. The other part of that is God has called us to do the impossible. If you look at St. John 14:12, it always comes to me that Jesus said we should do things greater than he did. And we get caught up in doing, one of the things that really that troubles me is that the people of faith don't believe they can do anything. A lot of our congregations have got to the point where they really need support, need help. But they need a new mindset first, to know that God is on their side.
Yeah.
And that God has empowered them to do greater things than what they think they could do. I remember pastoring a church one time, and every fifth Sunday, I just say to them, we're going to do something that you all say we'll never do. We do the impossible. Well, sometimes we have to demonstrate that in order for people to understand that that can be done. You know, my faith is more than just head faith. I, I'm a bishop in the church. God knows I didn't think I'd ever be there. And it's because of God. I didn't have anything to do with that. I try to work hard wherever I was because I love people first. And I like to see people advance. I like to see people grow. It excites me every time I see it happen. You know, when I see people doing things and they say, come to me and say, Bishop, listen, we did this. Oh, I'm excited about that because I know they didn't do it unless they were led by God or they understood or were not afraid to walk into the unknown. As long as you stay where you are and do the same thing you have always done, that's boring.
Indeed, it is.
So God, you really need to do something that you've never done before to keep life and vigor and joy around you, especially when you're able to accomplish it.
Mm.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It excites people when they do it. We did a couple of things. I was passing the church, and I said, we're going to do that. They said, oh, yeah, sure. You can do that. Yeah, sure, we can do that. And we did it. And they said, wow. Wow. Why did we marvel at the world doing miraculous things, and then the Christians sitting over there trying to wonder why we can't? We can.
Yeah.
God has empowered us to do that. And we shouldn't back up on things. You know, you think of the reason we call the Freedom Church is because of people who dared to do something that they were not supposed to do. You know, one of my great bishops that I marvel is James Walker Hood. I think he was one of the most extraordinary bishops we've ever had. That man did so many things with education. He was a pioneer with the Masons. He was a pioneer in education as he started he was the associate superintendent of public schools in the state of North Carolina. And he was an abolitionist. And he was leading his people. There were churches already established in North Carolina. But when they heard Hood and all that he sought to do and tell them what they could do, they joined with him. They connected to him. And so I just believe when we begin to move into the unknown and do things we've never done before, that's what God calls us to do. That's what the church needs to be doing. We need to be crying about what we don't have. And we don't have so many, all that kind of talk. We need to be doing the impossible. And people begin to see. You know, a lot of times we think miracles is only when God heals us. And that's true. But God can heal our minds too.
Yeah.
Just to be saved is a miracle. And I just think once we get saved and we experience that miracle, we need to take it on to the next level, because it's important for us to be about doing the impossible. So I'm always excited about that. You know, I remember just being in South Carolina a few years ago, and we needed to, people said we want to build a conference center, they said at that time. And some people said, well, yeah, y'all, that's been talked a long time. I said, we can do that. We can do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I marvel at how the people began to just come and do it, because they began to believe they could do it. And once you believe, that you can do things that you've never done before. It's no telling where you'll go. It's no telling how big this church would get. So I'm always excited about doing something. I'm always excited about going places I've never been before. When I was elected a bishop, went to Africa. I loved it. I loved being the bishop of Africa. Someone asked me, "You gonna go to Africa?" I said, "Yeah, I've been. I ran to be a bishop. I ain't ran to be a certain bishop in a certain place. I ran to be a bishop, and I went out there, loved the people, and we embraced what the missionaries wanted to do and built Janie Speaks Hospital. We built schools. We helped people go to school because it was important for us to do something that we had never done before. I think if every church would embrace trying to do that, do something you feel you can't do, just do it, because God's going to help you make that happen. And this theme, he said, "Well, you talking? You don't wait. You got away from the thing." No, I haven't. A movement empowered by the Holy Spirit. Come on, people. That's what it's about. It's the Spirit leading us to do this. Don't let that first part get by, because that's the most important part. I hope I answered your question. I have a tendency to go on, so do all kinds of things.
No.
Listen, first of all, I love people. And I love to see people, not to mess up with my little thing here going all kind of ways. But anyway, but I love people, and I like to see them do something they've never done before. They get excited about that. But it's all about the Spirit, about the Holy Spirit leading them to do it. We try to do a lot of things and then try to get the Holy Spirit to help us to do it. We need to check with them first. Take to God first. And then you can see how miraculous things can happen. You know, living in a capitalistic society messes us up because we don't think you're blessed until you have a lot of money, a big car, and all that kind of stuff. I served in Africa, and that helped me so much to understand how people can be tremendously blessed and do great things for God. When they build churches over there, they build great cathedrals. They don't stop at a little chapel. They call it chapel. But they're tremendous, and I just love it. Okay, all right.
You're fine, Bishop. It's so good to hear you talk about this and start to tell some of these stories. I guess I want to ask you, as you've been talking about, ministry and, some of your experiences, what would you say has been your greatest lesson in leadership? And how has it changed or informed your approach to ministry and the work that you're called to do?
Well, that's a kind of difficult question. I always say, God has placed me in places that were always bigger than me. He's given me responsibilities that I didn't think I could do. It's always. I didn't run from it. I didn't sit in a corner and start crying or do anything like that. I found myself, and this is important. I found myself trying to understand why God put me here. And in doing so, it calls for a lot of prayer. Now, prayer is not just telling God a lot of stuff. It's a time for you to be quiet and really connect with God so that he can speak to you. Every appointment I've ever had has been bigger than me. And I learned how to maneuver as God led me. Um, Now, I would never say that I knew what I was always doing. I've done a lot of things. I have sought to do things and lead people when I really didn't know how it was going to come out myself. But God led us through it. I learned to trust him better, and because I was out there. I'm going to tell you another little story, and I always do this. Y'all help me. One of these days, I'm going to stop talking so much. But when I was building the Transformation Center, we ran into a problem, and we had a groundwater problem. And it came to me in my spirit that I have taken these people to this place. We have bought this building, and it is no good. I said, now I'm wasting these people's money. And I felt so bad. I said, God, why did you take me out here like this? Because at that point, it was bigger than me. I didn't know what to do. And see, that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid to do things because they don't know what to do when they get there. But I trusted God, and he spoke to me. See, God speaks to you, and he'll send somebody to speak to you and tell you how you can get through that. He spoke to me and showed me how to overcome that. I was amazing because I was about to give up. And we always get to that point. But when you're leading people, see, everybody's watching you. Everybody's looking to hear what you got to tell them to get out of that. So when I got to that point, I said, Lord, if you didn't want me to do this, why did you let me see it? He was there, and he helped me get through that. Not a lot of people knew that. Only 2 or 3 people knew what we were going through. And I say that, leaders, I learned to just trust God. Even though you don't know what he's going to do, even though you don't understand how it's going to turn out, but you stay in connection with God. See, by staying in connection with God and being intimate with God, you learn discernment and wisdom. It's the only way you're going to get it. You ain't going to get it out of a book. You're going to get it out of staying close to God in the midst of trying moments. And that's one of the great things I've learned about leading people. I guess I answered your question. Not, we go on to the next one anyway.
Absolutely, you answered my question. Oh my goodness, it's so funny. Okay, I guess I want to ask now. How do you? Maybe you've spoken to this a little bit, but what inspires you? You mentioned Bishop Hood, right? Who you look to as just a great leader and inspiration for you. Are there others, either people or something, or some work of art, like a book or something that truly inspires you? Like, how do you stay inspired, or what inspires you as a religious leader?
Oh, Well, I mentioned Bishop Hood. I always loved to read about Bishop Hood and Moses in the Bible. Moses is one of my great uh, heroes, if you will, uh, and how he had to lead people. You know, he led some very difficult people, and so do we. And I was I've been encouraged by him, but be my I was encouraged by Dr. Samuel James Farrar, a tremendous person. He was my presiding elder, and he embraced me at the age of 17 when I started preaching, uh, and kind of showed me a lot. Uh, he always would talk to me about stuff and gave me opportunity. That's the other thing. He's always give people, as a leader, you have to give people opportunity to exercise their gifts. To always do that. Um, um, and God, you see something in people. Now you don't let everybody do stuff because everybody want to do things. They can't. But you, as a leader, I think it says in Peter, you should take oversight and see who can do things. So Farrah did that. Dr. Farrah did that with me as a young preacher. Um, and I always tell people when I started preaching, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. I was following the call. And you follow the call, you follow the call. And God does not stop calling you. And as you move through the call, you learn so much. As you experience everything that the call brings to you. You don't veer from the call. You keep moving toward God. That's good. You know, it's like my mother, parents are calling me. I'm going toward the sound. I'm going toward where I'm hearing this call coming from. And as I go, I may come across all kind of difficulty, all kind of uh, uh, situations, and I'm learning how to walk because I'm going toward the voice that's calling me. And then you get people that as a leader you embrace them and you give them opportunity. And if they make mistakes, you help them. Because I made some, still making some. But thank God we have a merciful God and a gracious God that gives us opportunity and chances. I don't know if I'm on this thing or just talking about me. What is this?
Well, it's a little bit of a mix. A little bit of a mix tonight, Bishop. I hope that's okay, because you have so much to share with us, and so much in terms of your experience, your life experience in ministry. And I guess now I want to ask you. Talked about giving people an opportunity, which I think ties back into the theme, right? And I think you and I have talked several times before about how you've been as a bishop. One of the things you've done is to definitely stay very well connected to young preachers and give young preachers an opportunity, even those who had yet to say they were a preacher. Please don't tell the people what you really used to call me. You probably will. but I've seen you be very inclusive, right, in your ministry, particularly as a bishop. And so making space for women and giving women an opportunity to lead, giving young preachers an opportunity, if nothing else, but to preach, but also different roles in conferences and all those kinds of things. And I hear you talking about how you were embraced as a young preacher. And I just wonder, is that the connection for you, or why that's super important for you? And how all of us should embrace that kind of inclusion as we're doing, moving in leadership.
Yes. You know, I told you when I first started, I didn't really know what I was doing. But listen, God put people in my way to lead me to where I needed to go. I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now. And so I'm always saying too that we should never leave this earth without making deposits in people. We need to be in some way helpful to people to get to where they're going. A lot of times they don't even know themselves. But we need to be there to help them get there. We need to do that in a local church. You know, there's some. See, y'all get me going off now. There are 4 things I think every congregation needs to be about. As a leader, we need to make sure that happens. You know, now I'm not saying that every church should do this, but every church should be making disciples. Now, if y'all not making disciples, but making some good old cakes and other things, that's fine. But God has called you to make disciples, and we need to be intentional about making disciples. I mean, really intentional. But then we need to produce preachers, and we need to be so designed in our local congregations that people can hear the call to preach in that local church. We need to birth new congregations. I was in a meeting in the Board of Bishops retreat, and we heard one of the presenters said that every church dies at some time, but it is reborn. But on top of that, every church should be birthing new churches. That's so important, because if a church dies, there needs to be. Listen, I got 3 children. Now I'm gonna leave this world, and so my children have to keep things going. And every church needs to birth another one. We have so many churches that are barren. And if they are barren, that means we're in decline. So we need to birth churches, and we need to be a strong witness in the community. Those are the 4 things. Now, every church may not do all 4 of those things, but I'm not sure if we're really about what we are calling to do if we don't do something, if we don't do any of them. You know, I would love to see every church birth another church, but we know we are so so cultic, if you will, that we just want our little place to stay and exist. We want to live as the way we are in our comfortable zone, and nobody else can get in it. And as we are moving through life, we are at the point that we may soon die. So we need to birth something new. I think this pandemic is causing us to rethink what we are supposed to be doing as a church, because we have gotten so automatic in our doing that there's no thought given to why we do what we do. So it's important for us to do one of those four things. We got to make that the primary thing. We got to make disciples. We don't do nothing else. If we don't do anything else, we need to make disciples. I'm not talking about new members, because that's new members. That's club stuff. Disciples, those persons who have been sitting under the right kind of teaching and training, and they too can embrace the same faith that we have. They can embrace that faith. They need, embrace the faith. I'm proud that my children, I don't have no problem with my children. Thank God for that. I ain't never been to the jail to get them out, never all this stuff. It's because it's in training. Now they might do some other stuff. Now I ain't saying they, but I made sure they got that stuff in them so they could begin to share what they've learned and become not so much citizens, but people of God. So that's important. That's important, and hopefully, our churches can see the need to do that. Make a disciple. Make a disciple. You should make somebody that you don't leave this world and you don't produce somebody like you. You should produce another person. You should be putting something in that person so that person could eventually begin to model some things that you've done. Yeah, that's what we need to do. But now, well, okay. I don't know if I'm answering these questions or just talking.
No, you are definitely addressing the questions and giving us so much more meat along with it. So I guess I'll have one final question before we wrap things up. I know you're like, and thank God for that. How many questions you got, Ariane? Just one more question, Bishop. Just one more. I guess I would ask, you've talked a little bit about us being the Freedom Church, right? That is a key thing, a name. We've held to that, right? And as a part of our identity. And so what does it really mean to be the Freedom Church now? And I guess tying into that, you've kind of hit on it, I think, but I wonder if you have more thoughts about what will be required of us as a church going forward. If we're going to keep calling ourselves the Freedom Church, what does that look like at this time to serve the present age?
We are known as the Freedom Church because of preachers and lay people who were active in the abolitionist moving. They were very active, and most of the time we would just hear about Frederick Douglass and the Journal of Truth, Harriet Tubman, but there were so many more. Alexander Walters, and I mean, there's so many more, and some who were never got to the place to be recognized as these people, but they were very much involved in the abolitionist movement, and that what brought Freedom Church to us because of their notoriety. So I think it's important too that we, in this 2022 or this season, this time, that we need to perpetuate that by giving direction to our people about the various issues that really are confronted by our people. We still are in search of freedom. We still have difficult concerns in this country. Just to be able to vote like we should. There are those who are trying to eliminate that or curtail that for us. That shouldn't be. So we have to stand up and put people in office that's going to really be helpful to this nation and the people of this nation, the downtrodden, oppressed. This capitalistic society basically just want to take care of their own, and they forget about those that need us, that need. And there are always going to be people like that. But we need to be engaged in understanding what's going on in this nation. And we can't be selfish. When I say selfish, as long as I'm okay, don't worry about nobody else. And we can't do that. That's not Christian. And that's what the early people did. And we need to get back to that. This capitalistic society has ruined our mindset. We got to have the money. Forget about the people. And they don't want to spend no money on us. Our president now is low
approval.
Thank you. And he's trying his best, but hey, we have to be out there. Social justice, of course, you have to be careful with social justice, but we got to do it. We got to receive people. Everybody's not going to agree with us. That don't mean that we need to be religious bigots.
Amen, somebody.
We have to receive people. We don't have to accept everything about them, but they're equal. They're equal to us, so we can't be condemning people and putting them down just because they don't agree with us. We have to embrace them and receive them. You can't save anybody when you're running them away. You can't save people like that. You got to receive them and begin to teach them and nurture them so that they can learn the difference or become. I've changed my thought about a lot of things because I began to look at it differently. You really have to look at things differently in order for us to see things differently. But if you got one of those minds that just stay on one thing, never change.
Reprobate.
I ain't calling names, but I'm just saying we need to be open, have a worldview of what's going on. And our church, the Freedom Church, we talk about Freedom Church, that's to receive people and then train them and love them so that they can see God. That's what we should be about. Everything we do, we need to point people to God, point them to God, point them to Jesus. And they'll find freedom in that. and we need to do. We have to show a level of compassion. I think that's the word I was after. It's bad when the church has lost its compassion. We have to be compassionate, even to the sinners. We have to love them, and that can be difficult. So we need to strengthen our fellowships, but more importantly, we need to understand that we are in a movement, and the movement is moving forward because it's empowered by the Holy Spirit. That's how we can strengthen the fellowship. That's how we can serve our people. That's how we can share our faith. And that's what's going to bring us to a glorious future.
Thank you so much, Bishop. You have definitely poured into us tonight. I think there are several things that pop up as we wrap up tonight for me that I think are key things you talked about. One about having churches having the faith to believe that we can do something, that we can go somewhere, that we can accomplish something. We operate in a lot of fear, and if we're going to be the church, we need to move beyond that. I think you're saying that this theme is pushing us in that direction, and that we also need to be about embracing and loving people and be thoughtful about our mindset. Particularly, you talked at the end about the capitalistic society we live in and how that influences how we think. And we really need to be about people at the center, right? That's who we are as Christians. Is there any final thing you want to say to us before we bring Reverend Brown back on and close out?
It's bad, but I don't want to do that. But I think it's so very important that we find ways to help our church to get back on target. One of the most important things of all that we should be doing is to show compassion. You know, even when people fail, we need to show compassion. We should never glory in anybody's downfall. We should always try to find a way to show compassion, and it can be done in all kinds of ways. And it's hard to do that when you've been hurt. Your book talks about that a little bit, but always remember that this walk with God is an adventure of uncertainty, and even in the midst of that uncertainty, we can do the impossible. God bless you.
Bill, the best preacher I know. Thank you so much, Bishop, for sharing with us tonight. We want to thank the Star of Zion for the opportunity to talk and have the conversation. We want everybody to have the opportunity to get the curriculum, to get the study guide that is tied to the quadrennial theme that Bishop has talked about so eloquently tonight. So we want to bring back on Reverend Sam Brown, who is the managing editor at the Star of Zion. Thank you again, Reverend Brown, for the opportunity for us to talk tonight, and we will throw it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Williams, Bishop Monroe. Thank you all for giving of your time to partake in such an enriching dialogue that is going to be such a blessing to so many of our members and people even beyond the membership of the AME Zion Church. As our official organ, Zion, we are committed to... Hello.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
Mr. Editor. All right. Well, we have our 18th editor-in-chief, Mr. Darren Kent, who is here with us. And this has just been a wonderful process.
It really has.
how all of the different tiers of leadership, particularly our bishops and our general officers, all coordinating to make sure that this is something that is received by all of the people in the AME Zion Church at all levels. So could you kind of talk just a little bit about that, DK? I know we're wanting to wrap up, but what have you been doing as CCO and editor-in-chief for the Star to ensure that this curriculum is widespread throughout all of Zion?
Yeah, thank you, Managing Editor Sam Brown. I appreciate the opportunity here. I wanted to pop on just for a little bit. First of all, to say thank you for that discussion, that conversation, that insightful teaching / preaching that just went on from our senior bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, Bishop Kenneth Monroe. We are so appreciative of you to be able to join us on tonight and to share to all of the Star of Zion fellowship and to the AME Zion Church in general. And then Reverend Williams, you did an amazing job with that interview. I know you have a personal connection with Bishop Monroe, and that was seen through the interview, and we appreciate you for that as well. The study guide, I heard what was spoken from our bishop. He's in lockstep with everything that the general officers are doing at headquarters in order to be able to push this out to the people, and not a manner of a discrepancy or anything that we just not able to understand, but so that we're on one cohesive measure and that we all understand how it's being displayed. So let me go into a little bit of where we are right now. We're definitely delayed coming from General Conference. Everything was delayed. The COVID experience knocked everything off track. And we are currently in the serving our flock area of the study guide. And even that is now being fast tracked, so to speak, to get us to that point for those that haven't even seen the study guide. We are well aware that there's a whole demographic of people throughout our church that have no idea what we're talking about on today. And we empathize with that. And that was why it was so important to have our leadership come on tonight to be able to dive into and give an explanation as to what the quadrennial theme was, which is still running at the bottom of your screen right now, and to describe the fact that this is a new thing that we're doing this year, which is an actual study guide that is real curriculum that you can then share with your local church and anybody that you see fit. So I actually want to even share my screen real quick and give you a preview of what it looks like to let you know that we are actually doing something. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, well, looks, we're gonna have to, you all gonna have to see my whole screen here. Let's see here. Ooh, it's asking me for, I should have had this prepped. The communication director don't have it prepped. I thought it was simple. Okay. Yeah, that was not as simple. I'm on a different computer, and that's why it's just not linking over as easy as it was. But the study guide is available. I'm looking at it right here on my desktop, and I apologize that you can't see it as well. It looks nice and beautiful. And you actually did see it if you got the Star of Zion from the January issue. Was that right, our managing editor?
That is correct. Beginning with our January 2022 issue.
Right. So the first issue, the front page, that was the study guide front page. And inside that, you saw the forward and you saw our first lesson, which was actually written by Reverend Williams. She did the entire first year, and then so forth and so on. We have other teachers and people that developed the curriculum moving forward. So when that curriculum was then given over to the general officers, we packaged it well. We messed with the dates just a little bit in order to get it cohesive, like I said, so everybody understands where we're at right now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take special pride in presenting this to everybody at the Board of Bishops. And I'll even throw that banner on the screen for you all to see right now. The Board of Bishops is going to be a virtual experience as it was last year, but we're going to have a dynamic one that tells a whole story and gets us fully acclimated with the quadrennial theme and the study guide moving forward. The virtual experience will commence on Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please know that that's Eastern Standard Time. So wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to lock in and look at that. on all of the Star of Zion networks and all of the amyzion.org networks. We plan on having two publications, two streams this year, Reverend Brown. You are and others are going to be engaging in a Star of Zion following and pre-show that's going to then look at the Board of Bishops, which is going to go on the Amy Zion Network. So you'll be able to choose which one you want to watch. If you want to get some commentary, you can see on the Star of Zion Network and hear things that are going on the Amy Zion Network, which is just the full service within itself. So you'll be hearing more about that in the very near future. This flyer is actually going to drop on Amy Zion platforms this evening, and on the Star of Zion platforms, and mailings and things like that will go out moving forward. And then we will keep you abreast of everything that we're doing forward as far as the quadrennial theme is and the study guide. In the conclusion of how this all looks, you will be able to go to amyz.org. You will be able to go to a specific section on the website and download the study guide in a digital consumption, print it out for those that need print copy, and then be able to also look at videos that reinforce the study guide. So we've taken the liberty of having Reverend Williams go over her entire first year, and she gives you tutorials for the teaching aspect, and she's also able to give you some quick little trainings and things like that, icebreakers that you can actually run in the actual session if you so choose to. So all of that is being developed. It should be in the works by, again, the Board of Bishops, which is happening on the 16th. And our general officers are all collectively working to make sure that the word is out across all of our publications moving forward. So I appreciate this time just to come on and interrupt you, managing editor. I know you were closing out, but I'll hop on here if it's all right. So I'll swing it back to you, sir, just to close this on out, unless you have any other questions for me.
No other questions. If you could just reiterate where they can find it. It can be in the printed found in the printed issue of the Star of Zion. So it's important for you to get a subscription.
That's right.
So you can get that study guide portion in the Star of Zion every month. You can subscribe, www.starofzion.org. Also, this conversation itself, this phenomenal dialogue with Bishop Monroe and Reverend Williams will be archived, and you can access it via our website or simply visiting our YouTube channel as well.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And not only this conversation, but every conversation we've ever had since we've been doing this series, When Freedom Speaks. And that trails all the way back to last year. We have 12 bishops. We have 12 months of the year. That's our goal, to be able to present one bishop a month to you and have some dialogue and let you hear them outside of annual conference, outside of any conference, and just see a little bit more about who they are as a person, what their goals, what their ambitions are, and who they are, and their family and things of that nature, as well as giving vision and teachings as to wherever they want to go in that respect. But again, we appreciate what we had on today, and we love the opportunity to be in this capacity to get it out to everybody. If you are enjoying this, hit the share button. Share, like. We love the comments. We see them flowing in, and it's doing amazing for us as far as getting the word out to people. We don't want just people in Zion to know about what's going on in Zion. We want everybody else to know about what's going on in Zion as well. We have great things going on all the time throughout our denomination. So it's about time we now spread the word to those outside of our denomination, letting them know what we do here. And here we are. All right. So yeah, Reverend Brown, I'm done. I'm talking too much. Like Bishop Monroe said. You're still in the waiting room laughing at me right now. All right, sir, take it on out. I'm going.
Once again, thank you all so much for tuning into the Star of Zion. This is When Freedom Speaks. We hope you have taken the information that you have gleaned today from this wonderful conversation, and you are empowered and equipped to go and realize the dream and the vision of the Freedom Church. That is a movement inspired by the Holy Spirit. Go and strengthen your fellowship, serve the flock, share your faith, and secure the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good evening.